Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Gilles Gallant, filling in for Chris Raybon here for NFL Week 18. And it's time for the touchdown show. More anytime touchdowns for Week 18. Sean Koerner, the odds maker, is back for NFL Week 18. And we've got Grant Neiffer filling in for Chris Raybon. He does great work at Scores and Odds. Last week, though, guys, had a pretty good week for Touchdown Show Pod. We hit the Sunday Night Football parlay. Koerner. We had Juwan Jennings, Luke the Burden, Jake Tongas, Trey McBride, Hunter Henry, Chris Godwin. So we had some pretty good winners last week. We're going to try to bring some more for you for Week 18. We're going to go through the entire NFL Week 18 slate, and we'll find some guys we're seeing value on in the anytime touchdown market. And we're going to track all of those bets in the Touchdown Show account on the Action Network app. So be sure to follow that account. And if you want to tail any of these bets, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or you can go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. Now, before we get into these touchdowns, I'll toss it over to Chris Raybon for a word from our sponsor.
The Action Network podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings' same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code Action Network when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code Action Network when signing up and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right, we're Week 18. We've got two games on Saturday with big playoff implications. We got Carolina going to Tampa to play the Buccaneers, and we've got the Seahawks going to San Francisco to play the 49ers. Koerner, you're up first. What touchdown bets do you like for Panthers Buccaneers?
Yeah, so for the Bucks, I'm going to go with Bucky Irving here at plus 165. He's really struggled in year two. He's, missed a handful of games due to injury. Hasn't scored in 3 straight games. So I think it's a good buy low spot on him because, despite his struggles, they've been sticking with him as the clear lead back when healthy. The Panthers have allowed 10 touchdowns now over the last 6 games to running backs. So this is a good spot for running backs in general. And, Sean Tucker's always a threat to score once they get close to the goal line. He's been sort of the vulture back. Not surprising. I kind of figured that would be the case. But, Bucky's fully capable of scoring further out, especially as a pass catcher. He has 3 receiving touchdowns this season. He's very good after the catch. So, he has multiple paths to get there. So I think it's a good buy low spot on him at plus 165. And on the Panther side, Mike Evans is in this game, but I'm going with another M. Evans, Mitchell Evans, at plus 650. I've always thought, him as like a sneaky touchdown bet because he's, the Panthers' number 3 tight end. Who the hell would bet on him? But he's usually out there in red zone package or goal line packages, I should say. Jatavion Sanders is out. Jatavion missed 3 games earlier in the season, and Evans scored a touchdown in 2 of those 3 games. So he stepped up with Sanders out in the pass. So the fact that we can get him at plus 650 here, I think is good. I think, a lot of people are going to be in on Rico Dowdle here, who needs a touchdown to hit his incentive. So I think, a lot of the market's on him. So I think Evans is being overlooked a bit here at plus 650. I'm projecting him closer to like plus 500. I just think he's a sneaky bet here with Sanders out. Plus, the Buccaneers have allowed 7 touchdowns in the last 6 games of tight ends. They allowed that career game to Kyle Pitts, but they've been a little bit leakier against tight ends in general. So I think Evans is definitely sneaky here.
I think both Evans and Tremble too, because I think I'm seeing Tremble right now around 5-1 as well. I think you could bet both tight ends for the Panthers in this game, and I think it's funny to take kudos to you, Koerner, for taking an Evans touchdown bet in a Bucs game, and it's not Mike Evans. They're just congratulations. That's really hard to do. So Mitch Evans 7-1, Bucky Irving plus 165. That's from Koerner for Panthers Buccaneers. And reminder about this game: the Bucs, they need to win, but the Falcons also to lose if they want to clinch the NFC South title. So we'll see how that plays out on Sunday. Now we move to the Seahawks at the 49ers, the NFC West title. The NFC number 1 seed is up for grabs. Grant, I'm sure you're pretty sure where I'm going to go with this on the Niners side. Jawan Jennings right now has just been an unreal touchdown run for him. He's around plus 190, 8 touchdowns over the last 8 games. I think he's almost matchup proof. He's shown the ability that he can get open and get targets against both man and zone coverages. He's really evolved into a legit wide receiver one in this offense. Obviously a tougher matchup facing the Seahawks, but given his touchdown run and how many times we've given him out on the show, I don't think there's a better choice on the 49ers side at this stage, especially because I'm not certain that George Kittle is back to 100% or if he's going to be at 100% by this game. So I think Jennings is who we want on the 49ers side. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk on the Seahawks side, though. I'm going to take Sam Darnold around plus 950. Obviously, there's no rushing touchdowns yet this year for him. Koerner, I don't know if I would call him a mall Santa because I feel like we know that Sam Darnold can run. I'd call him more like the Tin Man, like very stiff, but mobile once he gets a little greased up. Like it could be a matchup, too, where he could see some more scrambling. 49ers run defense, I think, has started to regress as the season has gone on with more injuries piling up. Like only 12 rushing touchdowns allowed on the year, but from context, 5 of those allowed over the last 4 games. And the 49ers, according to PFF, 28th in defensive run play success rate in the red zone. So I think with the Seahawks, they've been so predictable near the goal line with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I think the misdirection play action rush attempt for Darnold is very much on the table, especially in a critical game where turnovers could be an issue, and I think Darnold might have that in his head. He doesn't want to throw that costly interception near the goal line, so I could see him running for a touchdown, and I love the odds at plus 950. All right, before we continue, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Sean Koerner, Chris Raybon, Grant Neiffer, myself, our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can get access to our pro projections powered by Koerner and the predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20. Okay, let's now move to the Sunday slate. Grant, you're up first, and we are looking at Saints at Falcons. What do you got?
Yeah, so on the Saints side of things, I mean, the only guy really left around is Juwan Johnson, and so I'm picking him for a touchdown. You can find him at around plus 200, but yeah, Olave obviously has that blood clot, not going to play in this spot here, so who else are they going to throw the ball to? Who else is going to provide any of the offense? Like, Johnson has been great this season, and the volume has been good. Had close to 100 yards last week. He's going to be the go-to guy most likely in this offense, or at least in the receiving game this week. And it's just, I mean, it's not like it's a great matchup. Atlanta is above average versus the tight end, but it's just a spot where I can't see them really doing too much else in this offense other than throw the ball to Johnson. So I think the volume should be there. The odds are just a bit too high. I kind of thought about Taysom Hill. Maybe he gets heavily involved here, but I ended up going with Johnson here in this spot. And then on the other side, Drake London to score a touchdown, plus 170, and he absolutely crushed my hopes and dreams last week. Just awful watching him out there and getting absolutely nothing. But prior to that, like, he's gotten just massive volume pretty much all season long while he's been healthy. I mean, prior to last game, 8 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, 14, 10, 16. He has 6 touchdowns in the season, all 6 of which came in the last 8 games he's played. Obviously missed quite a few with that injury, but he's still probably the wide receiver one. He is, I think, currently questionable, but this is a spot where I think that they're going to throw the ball to him. I mean, they don't really have anything to play for except for to potentially knock the Bucs out of the playoffs here. But London at plus 170 just seems a bit too low in the spot. And I mean, maybe it's just a buy low from the fact that he hasn't scored in his last 3 games, the fact that he was essentially absent from the last game. So plus 170 is pretty solid odds here, and I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, and I mean, another week of practice, another week of getting healthy. I think that should put Drake London in a good spot. The Juwan Johnson one is a fun one, too, especially given that who else is really left on the Saints side from a pass catcher standpoint. I will say Taysom Hill did catch my eye a little bit, just with that nostalgia factor of thinking that this could potentially be his last game in a Saints uniform, but that remains to be seen. I'm still not sure who I'm going to take in that game, but yeah, Juwan Johnson, I think, is a very solid look here. All right, let's move to the AFC North. Browns at Bengals. Koerner, you're up. What do you like?
Yeah, well, this game's a disaster. The market's all over the place, but looks like Raheem Sanders is right around plus 240. I love that. So I'm going right back to the well with Rocket here. And last week, the Browns backfield played out about how I expected with Quinshon Judkins out. Dylan Sampson was sort of, the lead back overall, but, Sanders was the lead back on early downs. He had 51% of the snaps on early downs and short yardage. He took 100% of the short yardage snaps, which is what I figured because, he's the bigger back. He's 6 feet tall, 230. So he's probably going to see similar touchdown upside as Judkins, really. So this is a good spot against the Bengals. So getting him at plus 240, you kind of have to think of it. You're getting Judkins at plus 240 is how I think about it because he does play that goal line role. And then on the other side, I'm going to go with another running back here. Taj Brooks at 11-1. He is the Bengals' third string back. Hasn't played much this year because Chase Brown's been healthy all season long. So that, hasn't opened up any work for the backups. So week 18 could be more of an evaluation week. They already know what they have in, 33-year-old Samaje Perine, however old he is now. So I could see them giving Taj a little bit more work as they start to evaluate for next season. They could also just blow the Browns out. Taj got, mop-up duty last week. So I think Taj, once the market opens up for last touchdown score, that's probably where I would take Taj. Because if he does score a touchdown, it's probably going to be, later in the game, potentially the last score of the game. So I think Taj being the last touchdown score for week 18 makes a ton of sense.
I'm surprised that we didn't try to look for a long shot tight end or something like that, just given where the Bengals defense has been all year. But then once you get past your Harold Fannin and you realize David Njoku probably isn't going to play either. And then you're like, all right, am I feeling good about Blake Whiteheart here? And then once you go down that rabbit hole, it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah,
betting that.
I would say Blake Whiteheart is the play. He's their only healthy tight end right now. Even Brendan Bates is questionable. But the market, they're pricing Whiteheart down to plus 750 right now. So if you take that and Fannin suits up, you're going to look like an idiot. But, if Fannin's I don't think Njoku's going to play. He hasn't practiced yet. He hasn't practiced for weeks now. He's a free agent. No shot he plays. If Fannin's out and they still have Whiteheart, over 6-1, I would take a nibble on that. But yeah, locking him in at plus 750 when Fannin might still play, might sound silly, but yeah, I think taking Whiteheart if Fannin's out makes sense.
Well, and the Taj Brooks bet too, especially if the Bengals are ended up blowing them out, that looks even better too at around 11-1. So, all right, that's Bengals Browns. Let's move to Cowboys Giants. I got that game this week. All right, I'm going to go pretty chalky in these ones. Koerner, you've kind of laid out this case the last few weeks of why we like to take George Pickens, and I'm going to take it because look, I'm not really a contract incentive bettor for the most part. I find a lot of the time you can find an edge every once in a while, but most of those incentives are just baked into the odds now. But I still think that George Pickens has a little bit of incentive attached because we know he wants that new contract in the offseason. And this is the last game for him to make an impression on both Jerry Jones and other front offices to give him that wide receiver one money. And when you look at his stats, he has a couple milestones that could lead him to maybe even getting a few more targets to get into that kind of elite status. He's 8 catches away from 100 receptions, and he's 1 touchdown away from 10. Those benchmarks to me are important because right now, Koerner, when you look at the data for NFL, there's only 2 wide receivers that have 100-plus catches and 10 touchdowns. That's Jackson Smith-Njigba and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And when Amon-Ra signed his contract in 2024, he was the highest-paid wide receiver in the NFL. So I'm banking on Pickens to play like there's literally millions of dollars on the line. So he's around plus 155. Jackson Dart is the other one that I like in this game. He's around plus 170. He's got 9 touchdowns this year. He scored twice last week versus the Raiders. He's actually tied for second amongst all quarterbacks with 9 rushing touchdowns, tied with Trevor Lawrence, but he's done that in only 11 games, whereas those guys have played the full season. And I think the Giants have started to kind of take that bubble wrap off of him, especially after taking some big hits. So I think with this being the finale, playing at home, this is kind of the spot that you want to grab Jackson Dart when you can get it around plus 170. So that is Cowboys Giants. Let's now move to Colts Texans. Grant, what touchdown bets do you like for Colts Texans?
Yeah, this is obviously an interesting one because now Riley Leonard is getting the start, who they didn't want to play and decided to play Phillip Rivers instead for a few weeks. Still did look phenomenal. But, I mean, it shows that he might not be the greatest, but still, you're getting some pretty ridiculous odds on a lot of these receivers in this offense. I mean, almost every single one of them are plus 500 or more. So I just kind of went with the best one in that offense, which is Michael Pittman, in my opinion. So plus 500 on him. He's only out in a few sports books, but the odds are pretty high here. Obviously, I'm not going to be surprised if the Colts don't end up scoring a touchdown, but that's kind of baked into the odds here. Plus 500 for Pittman going up against one of the tougher defenses in the league. And there's a chance that Jacksonville's playing at the same time. If they got the game in hand, that maybe the Texans kind of loosen up a little bit because they don't really have too much to play for if they don't end up getting Jacksonville to lose. So Michael Pittman at plus 500 is who I'm rolling with on the Colts side of things. And then on the Texans side of things, Nico Collins plus 220. I don't really see Sauce Gardner playing in this spot. I mean, obviously they got nothing to play for. He hasn't been practicing. So Sauce likely out is definitely a downgrade for that defense. They've been beat up pretty heavily in the last few weeks. I mean, obviously Brock Purdy just absolutely shredded them a few weeks ago. So they've been beat up in the passing game. Nico Collins obviously can score from pretty much anywhere on the field. Plus 220 on Collins in a normal game is always way too high of a line. I do worry a little bit that maybe, again, like I said, if Jacksonville's blowing out Tennessee, maybe Houston kind of sits some guys a little bit in the second half. But as of right now, like Nico Collins, even in the first half and maybe 3/4 of play, is still not a terrible bet at plus 220 here. Add in that they're in their dome. Collins can really score from anywhere, and this line's just a bit too high.
I think in theory too, though, that is baked into the odds, right? The plus 220, that there is the potential of just fourth quarter not playing very much, or even just being a blowout, Riley Leonard and the Colts just sucking and they end up leading by like 20 entering the fourth quarter. But again, it's very difficult to pass on a wide receiver one when you get it at plus 220 and very friendly conditions in a positive matchup as well. So kudos to you, Michael Pittman, plus 500, and Nico Collins, plus 220. Those are the bets that Grant likes for Colts Texans. Now let's move to another AFC South game. This would be the Titans versus the Jaguars. Koerner, where are we going for that one?
Yeah, so this game, I'm definitely going chalky here. I'm going to go with Tony Pollard on the Titans side at plus 180. He's a player with a ton of incentives, and the Titans have nothing to play for. I talked about his prop extensively on the projections pod earlier this week, but he needs 66 yards for $250,000 and 2 touchdowns for another $250,000. And those the 66 yards is pretty close to my median projection for him. So I think that's one of those spots where the Titans will probably go out of their way to kind of help him get there, give him some extra touches. And I was saying it's kind of important for teams to do this because you want to act in good faith in these situations, because the Titans specifically are trying to attract free agents in the offseason. They have a massive budget for next year. So, showing you operate in good faith in these spots and not act like Sean Payton and, act like a dick and like prevent these incentives from hitting is huge. So I think they're going to give him some extra touches here. So I'm already projecting him at value here without even like boosting him or anything at plus 180. Plus, if you take him at, 2 touchdowns, it's 18-1. That's actually what he's going for anyway. So, I would nibble on that a bit. So like Pollard here at plus 180. And then the other side, I'm going to go with Parker Washington at plus 205. I've brought him up a few times on this show. I just think he's playing at a very high level right now. And throughout the season, he's seen his playing time fluctuate because you wouldn't expect Parker Washington to be a top 2 receiver for the Jaguars this year. But he's proven himself. And, he was limited a bit after he returned in week 15. But last week, he was back to a full-time role. He had a 95% routes run rate. Again, he's operating as a clear top 2 target. He's been really their top target the last couple weeks. And Trevor Lawrence is playing at a high level right now. So love him at plus 205. I'm projecting this closer to plus 160. So I think we're getting quite a bit of value here.
Yeah, he really broke our heart last week for Nick Giffen and I, because remember, if we collabed on him for the Action Playbook Live pick, and he got the end zone target that we wanted and it got intercepted. So that was the one thing that just the drawback, but the volume was there. So we were feeling pretty good about why. And then Tony Pollard, nice little ladder section here where you could get any time around plus 180 and then 2 touchdowns around 16-1 to get that incentive. All right. We are going to move now to Packers Vikings. So full disclosure, we're recording this Friday afternoon, and this is still the only game with no touchdown odds up for anything, anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both teams' defensive special teams touchdowns. And the reason why is because I could probably project this price. Normally around DraftKings for these types of props, they're anywhere between plus 425, plus 500, depending on the matchup. And so I'm going to go with that idea that they're probably going to be around plus 425, plus 450. So to make this case, all you got to do immediately is just look at Clayton Tune's career box scores because he is starting and he's got 3 interceptions and 27 career dropbacks, 2 fumbles on 16 career carries, and he's going on the road to a very loud environment and a defense that loves to blitz. They could be in their own territory a lot, maybe get strip sacked, and that comes a touchdown. So the Vikings pass defense as well, it's just been a brick wall for the second half of the season. They're 5th in defensive DVOA versus the pass, don't give up a lot of passing touchdowns. So I think Clayton Tune is going to struggle, and that could lead to a Vikings defensive special teams touchdown. The Packers as well, though, they're live for a defensive special teams touchdown, especially if JJ McCarthy is going to play, because he's not impervious to turnovers. They're not very effective on offense with him at quarterback. He's still got a hairline fracture in his hand. He's thrown an interception in all but 1 start. And Max Brosmer might even make an appearance. Like, this total is all the way down to 35.5. It's the lowest total of the week. So if you're betting on touchdowns in this game, make sure to get the best value you can. That's why, if anything, I'm just going to keep it simple and just go with the defensive special teams touchdown on each side. So that is Packers, Vikings. Let's now move to Chargers, Broncos, where Justin Herbert has been announced that he is going to sit, or at least Jim Harbaugh announced it. So Grant, you're up. What are we looking at for touchdown props in this game, knowing that Justin Herbert isn't going to play?
Yeah, so on the Chargers side of things, there's not really many odds out there. We have no idea which position players are going to even be playing, which defensive players are going to be playing. Chargers really have no reason to risk injury on any of them. But Lance is going to get the start, and that's who I'm rolling with, because you can find his odds around 430. And Trey Lance, like, we haven't seen much of him in his career, but in the games he does end up starting, dude's running a lot. I mean, going all the way back from when he was on San Francisco back in 2022, his only full game, he ran for 54 yards. First season, he had 89 yards rushing in the game. He didn't get into the end zone much, but that's a lot of just variance. He's probably going to be running the ball, especially if he doesn't have a ton of guys to throw to. Obviously, going up against Denver, it's a tough defense, so he's probably going to be forced to scramble because he's going to be on the run a lot. So all these kind of point towards the most likely scenario is Lance going to be the main guy to get into the end zone, depending on who else is playing. So I'm rolling with him at plus 430. And then on the Denver side of things, Denver essentially needs to win. Like, they pretty much have to win. If they don't, then they need Jacksonville to lose and the Patriots lose. That's in all likelihood not going to happen. So they want to win this game here. So they're going to be full throttle pretty much until the game's fully in hand. And Sutton is the guy who's been getting just a ton of volume recently. 10 targets in each of the last 4 games, 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games, and should have had one last week too. So the volume is fantastic, and we're getting his odds at plus 200 here. Just seems far too high for a guy getting that much volume in recent weeks, going up against a team that may not be playing a lot of their starters on a team that needs to win in the spot to get that first round bye. So Sutton plus 200 is my pick over there, and Lance plus 430 on the other side.
Yeah, over the last 4 games, Grant, I'll concede with you right now. Cortland Sutton has just been on a tear from a target standpoint. 41 targets over the last 4 games. There's only 5 players ahead of him in that span, and that's JSN, Trey McBride, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So tell me the next time that you can get any 4 of those guys at 2-1 to score a touchdown, and we'll bet them, because that's the kind of volume that you want for somebody, especially with a guy like Sutton, who is a legit wide receiver 1 in this offense. So good find by you. All right, let's move to Chiefs Raiders. Koerner, you're up, man. Honestly, with this game, I'm still kind of trying to decide of where I want to go with this one. I'm curious to see where you went for your touchdown props for Chiefs Raiders.
Yeah, on the Chiefs side, I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown at plus 370. He has some major incentives at play here. He needs 1 more touchdown for $750,000 and 2 touchdowns for $1 million more. The problem is he has Chris Oladokun trying to throw him the ball. So, I mean, I don't love this play here, but I'm already factoring that in. You know, the fact that they're going to have, Oladokun under center. Plus, it's also likely this is Travis Kelce's last game. They could force feed him in the red zone as well. But they are facing a Raiders team that's literally trying to lose in order to lock up the number 1 pick. Their team totals, 21 points, which is healthy enough, to score, probably 2 touchdowns here. So I'm projecting him plus, 340 as fair odds, and that's not even factoring in him, going up to Oladoka in the game and say, remember, I get like $1 million if I score a touchdown. I'll kick you, 50K or whatever. I mean, that kind of stuff probably happens. So I like Brown here at plus 370. I'm assuming this will get bet down as we see more and more tweets about incentives come out over the next couple days. And then on the other side, going to go with my guy, Michael Mayer here at plus 370. I always mention on the show that whenever Bowers is out, I'm going to be taking Michael Mayer, who's one of the best backup tight ends in the league. It's unfortunate that the Raiders had Bowers fall to them because they already had a first-round talent in Mayer. He only went, in the second round a few years ago in the draft because some of the teams just didn't prioritize tight end, but he was certainly a first-round talent. So anytime he gets a spot start for Bowers, he's in play. And last week, I was joking with Raybon on the projections pod that he might get punished last week for, going for 9 catches, 89 yards. Again, they're trying to lose. But he's too good to bottle up. So I like him here at plus 370. And as always, like whenever Bowers is out, I'm usually looking to invest in Mayer.
Yeah, plus 370 is a great price for Mayer. And even Marquise Brown, like the incentives, it could happen pretty early. And I was looking at the touchdown odds again just with Travis Kelce because I think they're like, plus 260, plus 270. But you're banking on him being force-fed, not necessarily that he has the talent to score, because I don't know if anybody's been watching Chiefs games over the last month, but he has looked very slow and very old, in my opinion. So Travis Kelce, though, if you want to bet him, he's around plus 260, but we like Hollywood Brown plus 370 with that $750,000 incentive for a touchdown. All right, Jets-Bills is on my plate here. Now, initially, I was looking at Josh Allen, thinking that maybe he was going to go into full Josh Allen mode and try to get move up in the seeding for AFC. But he hasn't practiced this week, guys. And Sean McDermott has kind of hinted that, he's dealing with a bit of a foot injury, so he might not end up playing. So he might end up doing what he did last year in week 18, where he played 1 snap, left the game, and then Mitch Trubisky comes in and plays the rest so he can get that Iron Man streak going. So I think a lot of the Bills, especially starters like Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Khalil Shakir, I don't think they're going to play that much if that's the case with Josh Allen not playing as well. So I think we look at Jackson Hawes. He's around plus 450, 3 touchdowns this year, playing the most snaps for any Bills tight end over the last 3 games. And I fully expect, again, the Bills to hold out a lot of players in this one. And I think he could have a huge role in week 18 if Kincaid and Knox are inactive. And facing the Jets, they've been awful defending tight ends this year, 30th in defensive DVOA, 9 touchdowns allowed. You could even look at a long shot, Koerner, even Kaliki Latu, around 20-1 for a Bills long shot. But I'm going to take Jackson Hawes at plus 450. And on the Jets side, this is literally the only lone bright spot on the Jets this year. A.D. Mitchell at plus 350. I know Breece Hall has been looking good, could get close to 1,000 yards, but I think A.D. Mitchell right now is the guy you want, especially because Brady Cook is going to be playing at quarterback, and it hasn't been great. The only touchdown pass that he has this year is to A.D. Mitchell, and Mitchell leads the Jets with 3 end zone targets in the 4 games that Brady Cook has played. He also leads the Jets in targets per route run and deep targets since he's come to the team. So if there's any Jets wide receiver that could somehow maybe get loose, maybe some broken coverage, I think it's A.D. Mitchell. He's around plus 325. So those are my 2 bets for Bills, Jets. All right, next game, we are looking at the Commanders at the Eagles. Right now, looking like Jalen Hurts may not play in this game. Josh Johnson's probably going to play on the Commanders side. So, Grant, where do we go for touchdown props in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Philly really doesn't have anything to play for. I mean, I don't think they can increase their spot unless the Bears lose. So, I mean, they're still probably going to try and get the 2 seed, but who knows? I think that Tank Bigsby is probably going to be in for a decent workload, so I'm just rolling with him at plus 145. It's just a bit too high of odds. I saw the action projections had him as one of the top values here. So that's just what I'm kind of rolling on that side, since there's so many unknowns at the moment. And then over on the Washington side of things, I mean, we got a 39-year-old Josh Johnson on his 27th different team in his career playing. And last week when he played, he was targeting Scary Terry a decent amount. You can get his odds around plus 310, plus 320, depending on where you look. And that's just a bit too high. I mean, he's obviously a very talented wide receiver. We may see several guys on the defensive end of the Eagles not playing in this spot, so the matchup should be a bit easier here. Odds are good, and that's what I'm rolling with there.
All right, Terry McLaurin, plus 310. You can get a wide receiver one against that Eagles defense. And I think there's maybe even a good chance, maybe even Quinyon Mitchell, for example, may not play, which would give him a little bit better matchup for Terry as well. And Tank Bigsby, when he's getting playing time, it's a pretty good spot, him facing the Commanders. All right, let's now move to Lions at the Bears. Koerner, I have a feeling you're going to go with two of your favorites in this one. Who do you like?
Yeah, this is like my favorite rookies bowl here. So for the Lions side, everybody should know that I'm going with Isaac Tisslaw here. Looks like he's plus 250, which might be the lowest it's been all year, other than that game where we thought Amon-Ra was going to be out and then he played through it. But, Jill, he was one of my favorite rookies heading into the season. A lot of that was just due. I thought he would be overlooked as being a third round pick and essentially being the number 5 target as a rookie. I think a lot of people misunderstood my Tisslaw love. Like, I'm well aware he was the number 5 target. That's why I said he's probably the best number 5 target in the league. I never thought he would get targets over Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Sam Laporta. So when people point out, he has 6 touchdowns on just 26 targets on the season, that essentially proves my point in the end. And this is a meaningless game. Sam Laporta remains on IR. Amon-Ra is dealing with knee and ankle injuries. So I think Tisslaw could see, a ton of playing time this week, probably move him up, the target pecking order. And the thing is, like, he has 6 touchdowns on the season, despite, a few targets. Some of his non-touchdown catches have been highlight reel plays as well. So anytime he's drawn a target, good things have happened. So I think, the final week, they'll probably want to feed him a couple more targets and, start planning for next year. So love Tisslaw here at plus 250. And on the other side, probably the favorite rookie from this year's class for me is Luther Burden, all the way down to plus 130. So I think the cat's kind of out of the bag on him. I kind of said, last Sunday night, this game's going to be on national TV. If he goes off here, which, I had his overs and everything, I think the cat's going to be out of the bag, which it has. But I think we're still getting some value here, at plus 130. It sounds like he's fully healthy. He got an injury at the end of the game last week. He seems to be fine. Roma Dunze does look, closer to doubtful. So I think Burden's going to be the guy again here this week. So he's still, on the uptrend. I think he's going to be like an Amon-Ra JSN type in the next 1 to 2 seasons. So, getting him at plus 130, I still like it here.
Well, we had to come a long way to get to these odds, right? Like, if you go back to week 1, when you would make fun of me because I didn't know who Isaac Tisslaw was, he was 16-1 to score a touchdown in that game against the Packers. Like, we had to have a lot of things happen, like Sam Laporta out, losses, play, all that stuff. Same thing with Luther Burden. He was probably around like 8-1 in week 1 to score. And then by the time we get to here now, he's looking like arguably maybe the best wide receiver on the team at this point. So very interesting developments here, but again, 2 rookies that it's maybe not too late to get behind in Lions at Bears. All right, now moving to Cardinals at Rams. I've been pretty vocal about this guy on the show pretty much since Jacoby Brissett took over at quarterback. I'm taking Trey McBride again at plus 160. It's just too good of odds to ignore for me. And I know he didn't score when they played each other in week 14. He still saw 9 targets, 2 in the end zone. It's been pretty obvious that this is just a trend that you have to keep kind of backing, where Brissett is just going to spam McBride near the goal line with targets. And the Rams are also expected to play their starters. I don't know if it'll be the full game, but I don't think this is just going to be a Cardinals blowout against a backup quarterback, you know what I mean, for the Rams. So I think there's going to be some back and forth, so that'll lead to a little bit more scoring on the Cardinals side. And if that is the case, for the Rams, I'm going to take Terrence Ferguson again around plus 450. And look, I've been pretty, I don't want to say anti-Colby Parkinson. I just was like, okay, this isn't sustainable. At some point, the ball is going to have to go around here. But he's around plus 250 to score in this game. So if you want to take him, that's okay. But I just think Terrence Ferguson offers a little bit better value in this matchup. He's scored in each of the last 2 games with Devontae Adams out. He's seeing a ton of downfield targets. 3 of his 4 targets last week were for 20-plus yards or more. And the Cardinals are 31st in defensive DVOA versus tight ends. So you can make a case for both Colby or Terrence Ferguson or even Davis Allen if you wanted to. But I think of the 3, if I'm going to play the tight end roulette in this game, I think Terrence Ferguson at plus 450 is the guy we want. All right, Grant, let's wrap up week 18, and then we'll do our favorite touchdown parlay and talk about Sunday Night Football as well. So this is the Sunday 4 p.m. slate. You are wrapping it up here with the Dolphins at the Patriots. Who do you like?
Yeah, not going to be a fun game. I mean, Patriots obviously still want to get that win for the potential chance of the 1 seed, but I mean, their odds are kind of nuked everywhere because they're 11.5-point favorites. So I'm rolling with one of the running backs, and that is Travion Henderson at plus 125. And it's just, I was kind of in between him and Stevenson. Ended up going with Henderson. I know the matchup is tough versus the Dolphins' run defense. It's been much better in the second half of the season, but he can obviously break one off. He should get decent volume. They're big favorites here, so probably running later in the game. It's always tough trying to figure out between Steven and Henderson, but I'm rolling with Henderson here. And then on the Miami side of things, Waddle is currently questionable, but if he plays, plus 330 just kind of seems silly. I mean, New England's been bad versus wide receiver ones this year.
Yep.
They've been, I think, nearly bottom of the league. Waddle is obviously a very talented wide receiver. They're going to probably be passing a lot because they're big dogs in this spot. So getting him at plus 330 is just ridiculous. If he doesn't end up playing, and I mean, Achane currently is questionable at the moment. Waller just got put on IR, so he's not playing this week. And a lot of their weapons are not in there, so they're probably going to have to rely on Waddle even more if Achane doesn't play. If Waddle doesn't end up playing, Achane doesn't end up playing, I think you can look at Ollie Gordon, who's currently at plus 400, but who knows what the odds will be there. But as of right now, that Waddle plus 330 is just screaming at me, so that's what I'm rolling at.
Well, Waddle to me, and again, anybody can bet on Waddle. I will never tell them not to bet on Waddle. I'm just more of a anti-Waddle better. I'll bring you some context. So last week I was talking to Koerner about Jalen Waddle and how much I liked him to score in that matchup. And I said, my biggest issue is I find a lot of the time he's a bit made of glass a lot of the time. If he takes one hit, it's like you don't see him for the rest of the game. Well, he did take that big hit. And I thought there was that good, maybe a void or something like that. Well, he ends up playing a little bit in the fourth quarter, just playing like insignificant snaps. And I know he ended up playing through the injury, but man, that's been always the hang up for me with Jalen Waddle whenever I bet him. So I wish you nothing but luck, Grant, because he has burned me just too many times over the years. But Travion Henderson, I love that pick too at plus 125. I love both of the picks. It's just, man, Waddle drives me crazy sometimes. All right. Before we get into the Sunday night game, it's time for our favorite anytime touchdown parlay presented by DraftKings. We're going to pick our favorite player to find the end zone, and we can use both the Saturday and Sunday slate, and we're going to parlay those together. Koerner, you are up first. Who would you like to put on the anytime touchdown parlay?
Let's go with Tank Bigsby here at plus 120. This was one of the top touchdown edges in the prop tool, but his odds have been plummeting. But I'm going to stick with him here. I think this is a solid pick because he should be the lead back with, Philly expected to rest their starters. So I think Tank should see a ton of work here. The Eagles traded for him earlier in the season, but he hasn't played much. But he's been solid in limited action this season on 42 carries. He's averaging 5 yards after contact, which would lead all qualified running backs on the season. Plus, I think Tanner McKee's pretty solid. I think he could drive even the backups down the field multiple times against this Commanders defense and set up, someone like Bigsby for a touchdown. And I doubt that they're going to have McKee running the tush-push play. So I think, Tank's going to probably get some of the traditional short yardage work that Saquon Barkley doesn't really get. So I like getting Tank here at plus 120.
All right, Tank Bigsby is the first leg. I'm going to be pretty consistent with my love for Juwan Jennings. He's going to be on the parlay. He's just been scoring too many touchdowns to ignore. 8 touchdowns over the last 8 games. I know it's a tough matchup against the Seahawks, but I love him in this matchup. So, Grant, take us home. Who are you betting for the touchdown parlay for Week 18?
Yeah, last one, going with the guy that Sean liked, Parker Washington plus 205. I mean, the volume has just been phenomenal. He's been good. Obviously, Jags need to win here in order to keep the division and potentially get the 1 seed and a long shot. But Washington, he's just been too good recently. I mean, 115, 145 yards receiving the last 2 games, 10 targets in each, had a TD in one. Probably should have had a TD in the other one, and 3 touchdowns in the last 7 games. So he's just been too good recently. Just the volume has been fantastic. So plus 205, Parker Washington, that's what I'm rolling with.
All right. So Tank Bigsby, Juwan Jennings, Parker Washington, you parlay all 3 of those and you get around 18-1. So, I mean, would be perfect for a 180 challenge if you're doing that to wrap up the year. So that was our favorite anytime touchdown parlay presented by DraftKings. Now let's get into Sunday Night Football. Let's talk about this AFC North battle between the Ravens at Steelers. Pretty low total. It's an AFC North total, guys. 40.5. Ravens are road favorites at 3.5. So we're going to do a parlay for this one. Koerner, if you had to do a parlay for this one, what touchdown leg would you want to do for the first leg?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth here at plus 310. Darnell Washington's been placed on the IR. He broke his arm. And when he left the game early last week, Muth had a huge boost in playing time. He saw a 77% routes run rate. So I'm expecting, a massive boost in playing time for him here. Plus, DK Metcalf is serving the second game of his suspension. So I think his target share is also going to get a boost too, because he's essentially, a wide receiver in this offense. And, Calvin Austin is even questionable as well. So I think they're going to have to lean on Muth a ton here, especially in the red zone. So like getting him here at plus 310.
I'm going to take Isaiah Likely. He's around 4-1. If people recall that game against the Steelers, he could have had 2 touchdowns in that game. He did end up scoring 1. But in these kind of matchups, I want more of the backup tight end who is a big target in the end zone. So I think Isaiah Likely at 4-1. I love that pick. So we're going to pair Pat Freiermuth with Isaiah Likely. Grant, take us home. What touchdown bet do you want to do for Sunday Night Football?
I'm going with a backup running back, Keaton Mitchell. You can get him at plus 650, which seems a little bit high. I know he's not playing a ton of snaps every single week, but he's still getting plenty of opportunities. Last week, 9 carries, 2 targets. Week before, 9 carries. Week before, 8 carries, 1 target. And he can do a little bit in the receiving game. He can break off a big run at any given time. Last time he played Pittsburgh, 6 rushes for 76 yards, broke off a 55-yarder. Didn't score, but only scored once this season. But the odds are just too high for a guy getting this type of workload. I know that everyone wants to go with Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was in December. I guess it's now January, but still same concept. He's probably still going to get a decent workload here. But Mitchell is getting more than enough work to justify the plus 650 touchdown number. So I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how healthy Lamar is from a scrambling standpoint either. So I don't think that you're going to see any Lamar vultures, whether it be from Derrick Henry or Keaton Mitchell near the goal line. So when you parlay Pat Freiermuth, Isaiah Likely, and Keaton Mitchell, I'm seeing right now at DraftKings, guys, 140-1 for this parlay. I love this parlay, especially because of given the exceeded rolls. I know Keaton Mitchell is probably going to be the harder one to hit, but there's a reason why it's 140-1. Very good value here. So good job by you guys. And we're going to add our anytime touchdown parlays to the Parlay Express account in the Action app. So go follow Parlay Express if you haven't yet. And while you're looking at Parlay Express in the Action app, make sure to sign up for Action Pro. It's the only way you get the best bets and best prices with immediate notifications when our Action experts post their picks. And you can also find all quick sip links for these bets that we gave out today in the podcast description, or you can visit actionnetwork.com/betting. bet now. So that'll do it for the NFL Week 18 Touchdown Show presented by DraftKings. My thanks to Sean Koerner and Grant Neiffer for joining me today. And if you haven't yet, check out our new quick slip bot called Playbook, and just tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for. It'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. It's at Playbook on X and Twitter. And make sure to subscribe to the Action Network podcast so you don't miss anything this season. We got a bunch still coming up, a bunch of podcasts and shows coming up for the NFL playoffs. You can find Sean on X, at the _oddsmaker, myself at GDog5000, and Grant at G Neiffer. And you can find us on the same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. So until next time, bon chance. And as my man Raybon would say, let's get this shmoney.